It is finally time to read the second book in Fae and Alchemy, which is Brimstone by Callie Hart. This is the sequel. You may know the first one, Quicksilver, which I did do a video about my reading adventure with that. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. And be warned, there will be spoilers for Quicksilver in this video, but not for Brimstone. Honestly, it's been so long since I read the first book that I'm going to do my best to give you a recap, but I'm sure there's a lot of missing pieces in that. So, our main character is Saeris Fane, and she lives in kind of like this desert area, and she's a thief. So, she goes around, she steals stuff, but one day she steals like the gauntlets of these like guards, and they're worth a lot of money. But I think she got caught because I remember she ended up in like the castle where there's like this big like sword thing that's like in the middle of the castle, and there's like the Quicksilver on it. And there's some fighting that happened, and she like pulls the sword out, which is not something you're supposed to do or even should be able to do, but she like pulls out the sword, and all this Quicksilver starts to leak around and go blah, 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 like all that. And then this man comes out of the Quicksilver, like just a hunking man comes out, and he's like, I'm gonna take this one with me, because he's like pretty sure, I think he realized at this point she's an alchemist, and he takes her with her. And now it's polar opposite of where she had come from. This world is like icy and snowy and cold and all this stuff, and it's the realm of the Fae. And so because of her ability with Quicksilver itself, which is like the sentient goo, which is my favorite part of this series, is the thing that just keeps me coming back wanting more, because I really love the idea of it. She's basically now an alchemist there, and she's like, what the heck? And they're like, we need you to like form the Quicksilver into like weapons and stuff. She's like, I don't know how to do that. And they're like, figure it out. And so she tries to escape a couple of times. She's also looking for her brother, and they end up mistakenly bringing like an ex-lover, which Kingfisher, who's like the Fae, the hunted man who came out of the like the Quicksilver, is like, oh my goodness, like how dare this man. He's one of my favorite characters. He's really funny. I really, really like him. I don't remember his name though, but I'll remember when I read the book. And he's just like adds just such a great contrast to the seriousness of the other characters. And so eventually she does figure out how to manipulate the Quicksilver, and it's like really cool because the Quicksilver has like personalities, and like it makes a bargain with her, and like she can talk to it, and then it can behave the way it's supposed to. And then the book revealed at the end of Quicksilver that she's the mate of Kingfisher, and I think she was crowned queen or something. It was something like that, and that's the recap of what I remember in the book. So now, with the second book out, from my understanding of what I actually remember from the first book, because it's been ages, is that it's probably going to follow maybe a few weeks later of the events of the first book. When I read the little blurb here, it kind of talked about how she's already crowned queen, and it's not really something she ever really wanted. She wanted to just kind of stay out of the limelight, and now she's in the limelight. So that's kind of going for her. She has to deal with the fact that this man is her mate. And then also just navigating the politics and her newfound powers as an alchemist. And then it looks like Fisher has his own story as well. So like they're still looking for her brother. So like it looks like maybe he's going to have to go into Saeris's world again to find the brother, because the first time he tried, he ended up getting the ex-lover, and now I think he's going to try again to get the brother. And then we'll see where it goes. So I'm excited about it. I'm really looking forward to having like a dual perspective, especially if it's going to be Saeris's world and then like the Fae world. I love just kind of seeing the differences between that. So yeah, without further ado, let's just crack this book right open. Oh, but wait! We know the drill. This has a dust cover, and that has to come off before I can read it. But also, this book has sprayed edges. And more often than not, that means there's going to be a pretty design underneath. And those are my favorites of all time. So we are going to open this book up. I think it's going to be black, and it's going to have this kind of like ambery design. Ooh, what do I think the design? Maybe like a fire, maybe like a little amber flame in here. So let's see if I'm right and open the book up together. Let's see. Oh, wait, what is that? I did not expect that. It's like a fox or a wolf. Ow, I think I remember now looking at this. She had like a pet fox, and I guess this is the pet fox. I forgot about the fox. The fox was very cute, and I'm thinking that's That's who's like on the cover here. Cool. Okay, let's read this book for real now. So I'm a little bit more than 100 pages into Brimstone, and here are my thoughts so far. I had completely forgotten the fact that Saeris died in the last book and then was brought back to life as like a half vampire, a half fae. I don't know how I forgot that, but I did. And so when the book starts, I'm like, why are they in the vampire lands? Like, what's going on? I had no idea what was going on. Like, it's been so long. However, luckily for me, Callie Hart has done a really good job in reminding you about why the characters are there, who the characters even are. I remember some of the characters, the other characters, I'm like, who? Who are you? I don't remember you at all. So that's been good. So, like, where I'm at right now in the book is we're kind of reminded about, like, oh, yeah, like, you know, Saeris is now half vampire, half fae, and she now needs to basically convince the vampires, be like, hey, you know, I killed Malcolm, who I remember now. He was the big bad vampire in the first book, who had trapped Kingfisher in like the maze for like a really, really long time. And so he died. He was killed. And now, because Saeris is the one who did it, she's by vampire law now the queen of the vampires. And they're like, wait, but she's only half a vampire. It's like, well, those are the laws. And I gotta say, this book feels way better written than the first one, which the first one, I remember enjoying it. I remember it having good writing, but this one really goes a lot deeper into the epic kind of fantasy vibe. You have like all of these gods and like the importance of them. You have all this lore, all these different creatures, all this different part of the world itself, and how it's all finally kind of coming together and the importance of that. And I think Callie Hart has done a really good job with that. And it feels very, very real. And I am having a good time with that. I think if you have not really read like a big multicast or are too familiar with more high fantasy kind of stories that have a more intricate, harder to understand world, then you might find this book a bit hard to get through because there's a lot of world building. There's a lot of characters to keep track of, but I really, really am enjoying this one. It's so much fun. Especially now that I remember like what happened in the last book. There have been some really good cliffhangers at the end of some of the chapters that yesterday in particular, let's just say there was a scene with a person who wasn't the same person that you think that person is, and like the reveal of what that name was, that was so good. And that's where I ended yesterday. Like when I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna finish this chapter and then I'm gonna go to bed, and I read up to there and I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to go to bed now, but like I want to know what happened because like that's a really good twist. So yeah, I'm having a really good time with this book. It's definitely a bit hard to get into when it's been so long that I read the book that I'm like, I don't remember what's going on. But as I find, once you get past like 100 pages, it starts to flow and you start to remember like what the heck happened. So I'm glad that I'm back on track. I remember this is the fox Onyx, cute little fox. I kind of want Onyx as a pet, to be honest. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where this book is going to go. It's really building up to some really cool stuff that's going to happen, like the magic and how the gods are playing, and like really just how the characters are going to move forward. And then I also forgot about the feeders, which why do we never call zombies zombies? Like we call them feeders, or we call them craven, or we call them walkers. Like out of all the creatures, zombies are never called zombies, but the zombies, sorry, the feeders in this book, I forgot about them as well. And there's some interesting stuff happening with them and happening with the rot. So I'm going to continue to read this book and I'll update you around the halfway mark. So I will see you then. So I'm definitely more than halfway through Brimstone, and I've got to say, for me, this book is better than the first book. If you remember when I was reading Quicksilver, you may remember that I was like, yeah, these characters have been done to death. Like, I don't know if I want to continue reading the series or not, but I was interested enough in the Quicksilver itself that I was like, I'm going to read the second book because I'm interested in that part of it. And if the second book doesn't do it for me, then I'll drop the series. My friends, we are not dropping the series. Nope, nope, nope. This book does what it does. That made sense. This book does what I love about good romantasy, and that is further expanded on the world and the lore and the magic, and further enhancing our characters and introducing new characters that are going to help with the journey and reveal stuff that was kind of foreshadowed in the first book, and I'm sure is being foreshadowed for the future books as well. I find Saeris way more, I guess, likable in this book. I really did not like her in the first book. She was too much. She was too much for me. She was too snarky. She was too stabby. But now her character seems to have calmed down a bit. And instead of just being like super snarky and stuff, she's actually more witty, and she is still hot-headed, but in a more manageable, more realistic way, to be honest. And then Kingfisher, his character as well. He's not like my favorite male love interest, but he does like the shadow daddy, brooding kind of guy vibe very well. But I like that we're learning more about his softer side now, and seeing just like little scenes with him and Onyx, or like him and Foley, like that kind of stuff, I think really just adds more layers to his character and makes me like him more. I think also in this book, it's just like she's really leveled up her writing. The first book was written well, don't get me wrong, but like this second one really just blows it out of the water. It's just so well done, and it's like so easy to follow along what's going on and like what the characters' intentions are and like the timelines and all of this stuff. And it's magical, it's interesting, it's intense. It still manages to balance the good aspect of like Saeris and Kingfisher's like spicy moments, their small and tender moments, as well as just story building moments, and the plot really pushing it forward and giving us this delicious detail. And having detail about a world like this really does it for me. Like, I think for some people, they may find this book really slow because it is very just like giving you really good information. Characters are exploring stuff. It's not like they're instantly gonna get ready and like beat up some bad guys. It's like, no, they're learning, they're growing, and it's more realistic. And like Saeris is still learning, like, what does it mean to be an alchemist when there's no documentation about that? How can she learn to master her powers and, you know, make these relics and stuff that she was making in the first book? And I really love it. I like that the characters don't have the answers. I like the way that things are being discovered and how far back certain things are planned. So fun. Another thing I like is like, now that I remember the characters and the story and what happened last time, it's making it a lot easier now to go through. At the beginning I was like, oh, I don't remember what's going on. But now that I do, I'm like breezing through this book. So I'm going to continue to read this book, Brimstone, which now I know why it's called Brimstone. And I will update you when I finish the book. So I will see you then with my final thoughts and what I shall rate this book. I just finished reading Brimstone. Okay. Wow, that ending. This is what I expect with romantasy. This book has leveled up from what Quicksilver was. And now that I really think about it, it's exactly how I felt about the Imperium series. That Fourth Win itself was okay. I liked it enough to want to read the second book, but for me, the second book, Onyx Storm, really just like solidified it for me because it became its own thing. It really expanded on the world and the characters and where the story's going. And for me, that's the exact same thing that Brimstone has just done to Fae and Alchemy. I really had a good time reading this book. It's heavy. It's a heavy book. It's a high 600 pager, but it doesn't feel like a high 600 pager except for the first 100 pages because I did not remember any characters or what happened last time. And perhaps that also kind of adds into me with this book because I can't tell you what happened exactly. Like some stuff in Quicksilver that maybe I was expecting to be answered in Brimstone, but like from my perspective, I'm like, yeah, no, this makes sense. I like it. I like that there's so much happening and that the characters are really struggling to keep up. I think that that's really fun. And I think that having it's interesting too because you have like a bunch of kind of different plot points, I guess, happening at the same time. But I actually really like the way that it's been approached. It feels chaotic and overwhelming, which is great because like that's how Saeris feels. I also think that Saeris as a character really, really leveled up in this book. Like she went from just infuriating to, ooh, okay, like you're a queen. Like, wow, step on people. And then Kingfisher as well. We really got to see his softer side. And that was just like, it was really nice. I think it really just rounded out the rest of his personality because before he was, I mean, granted, I found him very hot before as well, but like in Quicksilver because of the stuff that man would say. But like him as a character and his relationship with Saeris, I really love just how rounded out that's made him. I really love as well, like they're both completely obsessed with each other, but at the same time, they're also independent. Like Fisher never makes Saeris feel like she can't do anything. He's like, you go. Like, you want to do this? I believe in you. And she's the same with him. And then just like the further expansion of the world and the lore and like what being an alchemist even means is really cool. And like what the heck the Hazarks is, like what even is he? I don't know, but I really like that. And I think that like because I after this, like after I read the book and stuff, I was like, I wonder what people are saying about the book. And a lot of people were saying they were kind of upset because it didn't answer a bunch of questions. But like this is a series. I don't expect to have all the answers yet. Like you don't know what the Quicksilver is. No one does. We're going to find it out together. You're not going to have everything resolved in the second book of this series. I also don't think this is a trilogy. I'm pretty sure this is going to be like a series. So like you're not going to get all the answers in the second book. In fact, you're going to get more questions than answers in the second book because it's building up more. This is a completely different world and Saeris has never been involved in it before. She's the first alchemist in so long that it makes sense that there's just a lot happening and like there's a lot of unknowns. And I personally really love having all these unknowns. And I wouldn't have wanted all the questions from Quicksilver answered in Brimstone because then what do we look forward to in the next book? Now we have we have the underlying mystery and now we have more context as well about the world and what that looks like and how complicated things can be. And like you have the rock going on and you have Saeris just trying to figure out what on earth can I do and the importance of like deals and trades. And I gotta say, I am such a big fan of Foley. Like I just feel so drawn to him as a character. And of course Carrion. I love that man with my heart and soul. I think similarly to how I felt reading Quicksilver, it still mirrors that I think the secondary characters are better than our main characters, but our main characters have improved a lot in this book, and I really love to see that because like you don't want to hate on your main characters, you know? But I still find the secondary characters are just my favorite. Every single scene that Carry-On's in, hysterical. I'm losing my mind over him. I love him. He's so funny. He's just such a great character. And then Foley, I really like Foley as a character. I love kind of like the tragic boy vibes that he's got going on. And Tal, I really like Tal as well, and like how rough his life was and how he is as a character now and what does his future look like now after the events of like, certain things. And like I really liked it. I thought it was a really cool way to explore different characters, and I love that we were able to get Saeris and Kingfisher's POVs. And oh my goodness, I'm so glad that we understand why his name is Kingfisher, but I'm also so happy about the decision that was made in like the last 10 pages. Thank you. So today we are going to be awarding a Brimstone a total of 4.5 stars. Honestly, for this one, I think it's like a high 4.5, but It's not a 5-star book for me, certainly not, but it's definitely like high 4.5 stars. Like I had a wonderful time reading this book. It really kind of like it really felt like high fantasy with how complex and integrated everything was getting. And I love the level up. Like this book is a huge level up from Quicksilver, and I personally think that it's phenomenal. I think Callie Hart is really just like flexing her muscles in this book and creating such an interesting world that I'm honestly really looking forward to the third book, which it looks like it's announced to be toward the end of this year. So I'm going to keep an eye out for that one for sure. So I would say if you're on the fence about Quicksilver, you're not sure maybe if you want to read the series, I think that the second book really makes it for me, and that's why I would recommend it for you as well. Same thing with the Imperium series. The first book is okay, but the second book really just becomes its own, and I love the direction that it goes in, and Fae and Alchemy does the exact same thing for me. And I really like where it's going, because I gotta say, like, honestly, like the first book, like, okay, the first book was still fine, but like it did feel a bit more like an Akatar fanfic. Then now it's become its own like deep, complex layers upon layers upon layers with really interesting magic and stuff. And then the similarly for like me, Fourth Win kind of felt like a Red Queen meets Aragon fanfic, and then the second book it turned into its own thing. So like I am really loving that. I feel like second books can be victims of second book syndrome, but this does not have second book syndrome. It's a huge enhancement, upgrade, any other synonym you want to think of for the series. And that was just a really good time. I'm gonna miss it. You may have noticed that with Brimstone, each of the chapters had titles instead of just numbers. And if you've been following along and you're playing as well, then you'll know that in the bingo, I'm talking Waffles book bingo, there is a square for that very same thing, which means we get to add this book into that square of a book that has chapter titles, not just numbers. So we're going to add it. Here we go. Yay! So we have 2 squares. And the way that I'm approaching this is that one book can only count for 1 square. However, you can do it whichever way that you would like. I have a whole video about how to do the bingo and where you can get your own little bingo sheet as well. So yeah, we have 2 squares now, and it's only January, so this is pretty exciting. So tell me, how is the bingo going for you if you're participating? I would love to know. So the next book that I'm going to be reading is The Night Prince by Lauren Paprayman. This is the second book in the Wolfkin trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. And the third book is not out yet, but the second book is. I do believe the third book is supposed to be coming out this year as well in 2026. So yeah, I'm in such a romantasy mood after the way that Brimstone just like energized me. So I need to read another romantasy, but this one's got werewolves. So if you're interested in watching me read The Night Prince or any other book that happens to be on my never ending TBR, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, because I make videos about books all the time. And with that, I'm going to wish you warm wishes and fish kisses, and I'll see you in the next video.